We're pitting kids against one another, not for their ability. Competition is one thing, but to compete because of some arbitrary designation from the top down because of race, that is insidious and wrong for both the individual and for the country.
If you're talking about the problems of disparity, if you're talking about structural racism, education must be front and center. Our mission is to redistribute wealth. A lot of people bristle at that phrase. That is, in fact, the phrase we need to use. This status quo is broken. For thousands and thousands of students in neighborhoods all over New York City, the message has been, these specialized schools aren't for you.
There were too many Asians, and that is an offensive thing. You should never say that there's anything like too many of this or overrepresented, underrepresented. That's kind of ridiculous.
I received a letter from Chancellor Porter. I mean, to say things like our children, our Asian children, Asian American students, not the students of New York City? Who is she defining as our?
She was trying to find instead scapegoats. That is unacceptable. And the government should not be looking for scapegoats. It's too easy. It means that they don't have to fix any of the problems. Instead, you just target a different group. Every several years, you could find another group to target. And that doesn't solve the problem.
Chancellor Porter and all the rhetoric from certain politicians and certain religious leaders are saying using the same language. We don't belong. We are having special advantages. We are white adjacent. We are part of white supremacy. We are cheating the system.
You can't really set up a precedent saying that all Asians are super smart or something like that, because that's an extremely dangerous precedent.
Asian students are just sort of being discriminated against because they're seen as part of the majority now. It's just that they're trying really hard. They're putting in so much work, and it's just sort of being ignored because they're not the race you want to see in these schools.
People aren't numbers. You can't base, there are real people in the statistics. There are real people losing that opportunity. It's pretty upsetting to me to know that the reason is merely because of race.
There is a very serious system in New York that costs money to prep for these tests. We're spending thousands of dollars on special tutors, on programs to ace the test, which Black and Latino parents can't afford.
They're white or junk. They're white privilege. No, they're not. They're actually the poorest minority in New York City.
Right.
When my daughter goes to school, Stuyvesant High School, about 70% of the Asian children are in the free lunch program. Are they children of Chinese billionaires living in Soho?
This is not about a meritocracy. This is about a wealth autocracy, if you will. And Asian folks have been, many of our allies have stood with us, but many have not, because it's really all about the Benjamins. It's about their bottom line.
They're not rich kids. They're not private school kids. They're, a lot of them are immigrants, people from immigrant families who are just doing their best. And these kids put in so much hard work, a lot of time.
First of all, most Asians who take the SHSAT also don't get in. It's not like magic that if you're Asian, you get in.
I was going to tutoring at the same time I was going to school. Right after school, basically getting home 7, 8 o'clock every night. Took the SHSAT. Even after all the hard work, it was really stressful, but I ended up getting basically the cutoff score for Stuyvesant, and I was really excited. I was the second student ever from my school, I think, to have gotten into Stuyvesant.
these schools are amazing schools. They have produced 14 Nobel Prize winners, a bunch of winners in all kinds of academic prizes in research and science. Brooklyn Tech is the biggest of the special ed high schools. And from the mid-70s to the mid-90s, more than half, every single year, 20 continuous years, more than half of the students were black or Hispanic. They took the test. So for people to say the test is racist, it doesn't make sense.
What happened? Why now are there single-digit numbers? I'll tell you why. Because they gutted the whole gifted and talented programs, and those were the pipeline to the specialized high school.
There was a pushback on merit. They wanted equal outcomes and equal access. In some neighborhoods, they fought back. So they got to keep the gifted and talented programs. But the neighborhoods which did not fight back lost their gifted and talented programs, where they were mostly black and Hispanic, in fact.
Why do they pick on Asians? You're talking about critical race theory. And it just burst into the scene in the last 10 years or so. And it's an ideology, a political ideology of race war, of racial hatred. And Asians got targeted because of that. People are not just a race. Asians are overrepresented, blacks are underrepresented. To me, that is extremely offensive because one Asian does not represent another Asian. One black does not represent another black. To say that an Asian is overrepresented at Harvard is to say if they admit one Asian student, he represents another one that didn't get in. Well, how did that happen? Did he get delegated in some way? Was he elected to represent? Does he take courses on behalf of the student who didn't get in? Is he going to get a job as a representative of the student who didn't get in? There's no such thing as representation by race. So that whole language of represented, overrepresented, is basically saying Asians or whites or blacks are mutually substitutable.
这个单纯的身份引入到引进的这些肤色啊、背景的东西做好，我可以告诉你，在中国的文革的时候啊，一个学生他可能会被称为红五类或者是黑五类，为什么？不是因为这个人这个学生他自己的问题，而是他的身份、他的背景，他们就引进了这个东西。所以也就是说，纽约现在其实就是要按他们的意识把世界变成什么样子，而不是说按照我们每一个自由的人，通过自由的竞争，在这个机会平等的制度下，去创造出来一个色彩缤纷的世界。所以他们的这种做法，它跟共产主义的那种集权的共产主义其实是非常相似的。
And when you have the mayor and chancellor pretty much saying that the Asians do not belong there just because they are Asians, that's a very hateful thing. When you say that in the schools you could be excluded just because of your race. You can be judged, you can be punished for your race. That's the same thing when somebody goes out and sees somebody on the street who's Asian and says, I'm going to punish you for being Asian. You don't belong here. It's the same thing when they say you don't belong here in a school, you don't belong here in the streets, and you slug them. That's a horrible thing to teach them from very early ages.
I think that America is a unique experience in diversity. It promises everyone in the world, around the world, that they'll have an opportunity to come, if they come here, to do their best. I don't think any other country in the world does that.
When teachers ask us in a classroom, I think Sometimes not even one student is not a first-generation American. We're all very lucky to have the opportunities we have, and I think all those students recognize that they wouldn't have the same opportunities if their parents hadn't come to America.
And people have come and have contributed. And the only way you can make such different people work together is by telling them you all have equal rights under the law, regardless of where you came from.
This is where you do your best, you get into a good college, and that's sort of, for most kids, it's what you're seeing as like the start of your career. That's where your success comes from, is your education. So we all value education pretty much over anything else in our lives right now.
We cannot have an allocation system of equal outcomes, because then it wouldn't work. People from different places would not get along. People have to trust that they'll be given a fair chance regardless of where they come from, as long as they contribute. And that's why if you look at what made this country so successful, are the people from around the world. And if we lose that, this experiment would have failed.